In October 2025, June Lockhart, the last surviving adult star of Lost in Space, died at 100 years old. She had learned the show was canceled by reading a small notice in her morning newspaper. No phone call, no meeting, no farewell from the network. She carried that for 60 years and never stopped being gracious about it. Lost in Space, 1965, 83 episodes. The show CBS chose over Star Trek. One fact is about a man who spent 3 years inside a metal suit and was never once credited. Fact 1. CBS chose Lost in Space over Star Trek. They thought they were making the smarter bet. Allen pitched to CBS programmer James Aubrey, who bought it immediately. Weeks later, Roddenberry pitched Star Trek. Aubrey passed. Lost in Space ran for 3 seasons, was canceled, and faded. Star Trek ran for 3 seasons, was canceled, and became the largest science fiction franchise in history. The network that passed on Star Trek thought it had the better show. Fact 2. The original pilot cost $600,000, the most expensive television pilot ever produced at that time. The composer was a 33-year-old still being credited as Johnny Williams. The score was written by John Williams, 12 years before Star Wars, 10 years before Jaws, still being credited as Johnny Williams, a TV composer taking whatever work came in. The man who would write the music for almost every defining moment in American cinema was, in 1965, writing TV themes for Irwin Allen. Fact 3. The original pilot had no Dr. Smith, no robot, and no villain. CBS buried it, a clean survival story. A brilliant family launched toward Alpha Centauri, knocked off course, stranded. No conflict, no comedy, no saboteur. CBS loved it, bought the series, then handed Allen a list of demands. A recurring antagonist. Allen suggested Ming the Merciless. They settled on Dr. Zachary Smith. 80% of the pilot was cut into the first 5 episodes. Smith and the robot were written as having stayed at the ship, explaining their absence from footage that predated them by almost a year. Fact 4. The Jupiter 2 interior set cost $350,000 to build, the most expensive standing television set of its era. The entire Enterprise bridge on Star Trek cost less. CBS had budgeted more for a single room on the show it chose than NBC spent on the bridge of a starship. The Jupiter 2 looked extraordinary. It was used for 3 seasons and then scrapped. The Enterprise bridge, built cheaper, is still one of the most recognized interiors in the history of science fiction. CBS thought it had chosen the better show. Fact 5. Jonathan Harris was born Jonathan Karasuchin in the Bronx, son of Russian immigrants. He changed his name at 18 against his father's objections, earned a pharmacy degree he never used, and built a career entirely from scratch. Broadway, The Twilight Zone, over 100 stage productions. Then, Lost in Space. Harris looked at the role and understood it was a trap. Fact 6. Smith was written as a cold-blooded spy who programs the robot to murder the Robinson family in their sleep. Designed to be despicable and written out within 5 episodes. Harris recognized what a 5-episode role meant for a career. He started rewriting, arriving on set with new dialogue written overnight, pulling Moomy aside. "Let us go over the scene. I have changed all the dialogue." He invented the insults himself. Bubble-headed booby, nickel-plated nincompoop, bellicose bumpkin. Each one a calculated survival tactic. Smith had to attack the robot constantly to stop it exposing him. Comedy as self-defense. 500 fan letters a month arrived for Dr. Smith. Allen said openly, "Smith was not created as a comedy character. Jonathan Harris dictated what we should do with him." Harris also negotiated the first special guest star credit in American television history, applied to all 83 episodes. Fact 7. Guy Williams came to Lost in Space as one of the most recognizable men on American television. 4 years as Zorro. Merchandise generating $11 million in months. This was supposed to be his show. In Season 1, his screen time began shrinking. By Season 3, it was the production's reality. Williams appeared, delivered a handful of lines, and stood in the background. In one reported exchange, Williams erupted at Harris. "God damn it, I will kill you, Harris." Then after a pause, "I mean Smith." Whether deliberate or accidental, the pause said everything. Fact 8. "Danger, Will Robinson," was said exactly once in 83 episodes. The most famous catchphrase in the show's history appears in one episode of the entire original run. One time. 83 episodes. Once. Two of the defining science fiction shows of the decade were built in the same city, at the same time, for the same audience. One became a franchise, the other became a memory. From here, what that memory left behind. Fact 9. The Great Vegetable Rebellion. Dr. Smith picks a flower and is transformed into a stalk of celery. The central villain is a man in a foam rubber carrot costume. The writer arrived at Harris's dressing room holding the script behind his back. Williams and Lockhart couldn't stop laughing on set. Allen wrote both of them out of the next 2 episodes, at full salary, as punishment. In 1997, TV Guide's list of the 100 greatest television episodes, The Great Vegetable Rebellion, placed at 76. Star Trek's The City on the Edge of Forever, placed at 92. The carrot episode ranked higher than the best episode of Star Trek. Fact 10. CBS canceled the show by offering a 4th season with a 15% budget cut. Irwin Allen said no wrap party, no farewell, no handshake. The Robinson family was never rescued. They never reached Alpha Centauri. They never came home. Fact 11. Irwin Allen died on November 2, 1991. Gene Roddenberry had died 9 days earlier, on October 24. Two men who built rival visions of the future died 9 days apart. Neither ever said the other's name. Fact 12. Bill Mumy was a devoted Star Trek fan throughout the entire run of the show that was supposedly Star Trek's rival. Decades later, he made it official, appearing in a Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode as a Starfleet officer named Kellen. The character dies in combat. The producer of that episode reportedly got a considerable kick out of killing Will Robinson. Fact 13. When the 1998 Lost in Space film was produced, the studio offered Harris a 6-line cameo. He rejected it. His exact words, which immediately became famous in Hollywood circles, "They offered me an innocuous 6-line bit they laughingly called a cameo, and I told them exactly where to shove it." He had never played a bit part in his life. He was not going to start at 83. Fact 14. A reunion film was in development. Lost in Space, The Journey Home, with Harris set to star. It would have brought the Robinsons back to Earth. In November 2002, Harris entered hospital for a chronic back problem, the same back Dr. Smith had wailed about in melodramatic agony for 3 seasons. He died of a blood clot 3 days before his 88th birthday. The reunion film died with him. Bill Mumy delivered one of the eulogies. Fact 15. After cancellation, Williams found his Hollywood career had not survived being the background of his own show. Halfway around the world, his situation was entirely different. Zorro was a cultural institution in Argentina. The government gave him an apartment. He spent his last 21 years as something close to royalty in a country that had never forgotten him. On May 6, 1989, police entered his Buenos Aires apartment after friends reported his disappearance. He had been dead for approximately a week. He was 65. Nobody had known. The man promised the lead of a television series died undiscovered, a week before anyone found him, in a country that loved him more than his own industry ever had. Fact 16. Bob May auditioned by accident. He had come to Fox about a different job. Allen sent him to try on the suit. One test. If you fit, you're hired. When May climbed out for the first time, he was cut and bleeding from the metal edges. He took the job. The suit weighed 200 pounds. Under studio lights, it became, in May's words, his personal jacuzzi and sauna. On at least 2 occasions, he passed out inside it from lack of oxygen. The production's response: no time to stop filming. He was never credited on screen. Not once in 83 episodes. The practical consequence was lower pay and reduced residuals across decades of global licensing. In November 2008, a wildfire destroyed his home in the San Fernando Valley. 2 months later, May died of congestive heart failure. He was 69. What defined his later years was not bitterness. His convention rule: I will stay until the last fan is finished, or the cleaning crew forces me to leave. The robot smiled for 60 years of reruns, and never once showed what was happening inside. A network that passed on Star Trek, a pilot in a vault, a villain who rewrote himself and outlasted everyone who tried to stop him. A star who died undiscovered in Buenos Aires, a man inside a metal suit, never once credited. Lost in Space ran for 3 seasons and never became what it was supposed to be. The Robinson family never made it home. The people who played them never stopped finding their way back to each other. Danger, Will Robinson.